Picture this, you're a successful lawyer and business person, have a family of 4 beautiful children, but then one day something so dark and tragic happens to you that it completely changes the course of your future. This is what happened to Maria Jose Casterna, and her way of coping and dealing with her situation was to transform herself into a vampire by getting tattoos and body modifications. But what happened to her that was so tragic that made her go down this path? Well, this is her story. Maria is a 45-year-old woman from Mexico that currently holds the Guinness Book of World Records for being the world's most tattooed woman, with 96% of her body tattooed, and she had this title since 2012. Aside from her tattoos, she has some pretty intense body modifications, such as having her tongue split, her ears stretched, tattooing of her eyeballs, multiple implants and piercings all over her body, dental implants giving her a vampire-inspired teeth, and the list just goes on. Pretty crazy, right? Well, she actually wasn't always like this, so how did all of this stuff start? Well, Maria was born in Guatemala, Mexico in 1976, where she pretty much lived her whole life. Guatemala is known to be a pretty rough area due to the crime and gang violence that goes on there, so you bet it wasn't easy for a kid to grow up around this area. At the age of 12, she went and got her very first piercing, which in reality isn't the craziest thing. But at the age of 14, that's when she got her first ever tattoo. Now, tattoos are awesome, but at the age of 14, that's pretty young. Anyway, from her very first experience under the tattoo needle, Maria was hooked and she knew she always wanted to become a tattoo artist. The problem was, she also knew that if she told her parents that she wanted to be a tattoo artist, they would look down at her about it, so what she ended up doing was attending law school and becoming a lawyer just to make her parents happy. Around the age of 16, Maria's parents divorced, and this left her absolutely devastated, starting her downward spiral. Being young and feeling lonely, she felt empty and wanted more. She stated that when you're young and vulnerable as she was, you fall in love with the first person that is nice to you and makes you laugh. And that is exactly what happened. She found her first husband at the age of 17. You would think that Maria would be in a better state of mind from getting married, right? Well, no, this actually made her situation even worse. Her marriage was great for about the first year, but as time went on, her husband started to become more physically and mentally abusive. Maria stated that he was a very jealous man, and every time they went out in public, even if someone looked their way, he would go and take it out on Maria. However, even though this sounds like a toxic relationship, Maria decided to stay with him. Fast forward a few years later, she was pregnant with her first daughter, but due to the constant stress and abuse her husband put her through, she gave birth a few months early. Maria stated at this time this was the final nail in the coffin and that she wanted out of this marriage, but she was just too scared to leave her husband due to the worry of what he would do if he found out. Due to the fear, she ended up sticking around, but to distract her mind from all the burning world around her, she started to get body modifications because she knew that that made her happy. She kept her job as a lawyer, but before going into the courtroom, she would cover up all of her work as a sign of respect and the rules of the court. But over time, she started getting frustrated about the situation because she felt like she was covering up who she actually is. So she quit her high-paying lawyer position and pursued her dreams of becoming a tattoo artist. Maria started to go to her local shops and sit and learn from the experts in the field to teach her all the ways of the art of tattooing. She stated that every time she got a modification or a tattoo, that it meant like she was getting one step closer to leaving her husband. Every time she thought she built up the courage to leave her husband would then be really nice to her and she would forgive him, falling into the same trap over and over again until it got even worse for her over the time. And aside from him being physically and mentally abusive, he was not financially supportive at all to the family. And this just added more to Maria's stress. You're probably thinking, wait, so he wasn't financially supportive and also he's abusive, so why did Maria stay with him? Well, she stated in an interview that all women would do the same, were afraid. She packed her bags, grabbed her kids and left. swearing that after 10 years of a hopeless marriage, that this will never happen to her or her children again. After she left her husband, it wasn't all rainbows. This actually is where her modification started to intensify. She stated that she wanted to intensify her body modifications because they were a sign of liberation, strength, and courage from her past life. For example, she decided to get her whole face tattooed covered in stars, and she got this shortly after her mother passed away. These stars are a way for Maria to remember her mother by. She stated that her mother always told her to look up at the stars if she had a problem, and her mother will be there to help her always. Her fang modifications came from her love for vampires from when she was a child. In regards of her horn implants, she stated that it makes her feel like she has a new identity and gives her a new look. And her knee tattoo of the 4 eyes represent her 4 children keeping an eye on her. And the tattooing of her eyes, well, she stated that that's how she always wanted her eyes to look. You do you, Maria. Now, when you go and get these types of body modifications done, what do you think is the next thing that happens? You probably guessed that you literally become a walking eyeball magnet. She started getting the attention from literally everyone. She went on multiple news stations, radio stations, and podcasts to where people gave her the nickname the Vampire Woman. Even with her love for vampires, this name started as an insult and actually really hurt her feelings. But over time, she decided to grow more accustomed to the name. Maria stated that it created a whole new character for herself, and that the Vampire Woman gave her a voice to speak out about domestic abuse and hopefully prevent others from going through the same situations that she went through. Now, I'm sure the first time you saw her, you probably thought that she worships the devil or is in some kind of cult, right? Well, actually, Maria states that she gets it all the time, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Maria grew up in a very religious Catholic family and stated that religion is one of the biggest parts of her life. Overall, Maria is actually doing really well for herself. Due to the Vampire Woman persona, she is pretty much a celebrity now. Her tattoo business is booming, and she created other businesses making her own jewelry and other goods. She also travels the world and speaks to communities of people going through domestic violence situations, giving courage and hope to them. Now, this story is filled with a bunch of different kinds of emotions, and I would love to know what you think by leaving a comment below. And if you think this story is crazy, be sure to check this one out right here on how tattoos ruined this boy's life.